Well, folks, you know you're in for a treat when you hear that tune because it's time for another episode of the RecPoker Podcast. This is a chats edition, but we also have a forums edition every week, just talking strategy. I'm your host, Rob Washam, Rabman50 in the home game and at Rabman50 on X. And we have the best freaking job in the world, talking poker with our friends here on the podcast every Monday night at 7:30 Eastern, live on YouTube. Join us every week for free and win a prize. All right, we're going to be talking to Greg Goes All In Liow in a moment. But first, I have to mention that we're brought to you by Running Aces, the official sponsor of the RecPoker Podcast. Most of what we do here is free. We're a largely volunteer-based organization, so we depend on support from our sponsors and also from our premium members who take part in our training material and study opportunities for only $22 a month. Do you like talking poker with friends? For just 75 cents a day, come connect over Zoom with other fun, encouraging poker players, all trying to get better, or sign up for free because everything starts with a free account at RecPoker, where all you need to join is an email address and a smile. But remember, you can always get your first month of RecPoker for only $5 by using code RecPoker at checkout. Now, they're letting me host the show today, but I'm only one man, and it takes a group, a gang, a village, a crew to make all the magic happen around here. We call this group of wizards the RECing Crew. And if you want to learn more about me or the rest of the RECing Crew, just go to rec.poker/crew. Or you can just listen, because you're about to meet a few of them right now on the air, starting with producing co-host Chris Jones.
Well, I'm Chris Jones. You can find me 5B5 on Twitter or 5x5 in the PokerStars home game, and I help run our monthly strategy segment called The Deep Dive.
But anyway, so I am Joe Koulis. I run the PsyOps workshop on a monthly basis, and my goal is to help you understand the world of psychology and how it impacts your play on the felt as well as off, in the hopes of making you a better player. Come tune in every third week of the month on Thursdays.
And I am John Somsky, also known as Poker Geek MN, and I attempt to run our home games.
He does more than attempt. He does a very nice job running multiple home games a week. So I'm so pleased to be joined this week by Greg Liow, and I'm sure most of you know who Greg is. He's known as Greg Goes All In. Thanks much for coming onto the podcast. And we always start with the first question is, if our audience didn't know you, how would you define your own role in the poker community?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg. Greg Goes All In Liow. So I am a poker for people who don't know me super well. When they ask me, if let's say it's a formal setting, I'm going through like Border Patrol, I just tell them I'm a media producer. But between friends, I am a poker YouTuber. I have a YouTube channel called Greg Goes All In, on which I primarily make short comedic sketches about poker. I currently have about 230,000 subscribers, and I am an ambassador with GG Poker.
Great. That's fantastic. I enjoy watching your videos. And the first thing that comes to mind is, these scenarios that you present in these videos are so apropos to what most experienced poker players have encountered. So where do you pull all of this these ideas that you get for these YouTube videos? They're just fantastic. So where does all this come from?
Yeah, and I think the sentiment that a lot of the work I create is quite relatable comes up quite a bit. And I think really in the beginning, it kind of writes itself. Like all of the scenarios that I depict in my sketches aren't original. Everyone's experienced it. I think I was just one of the first to find this very niche spot on YouTube to create comedic sketches about poker. As time went on, though, like I feel like there's only so many jokes you can make about backdoor flushes and getting railed by the bros before, things get a little bit repetitive. Yeah. so I started kind of working more with different characters in the past year and a half, and that's really helped a lot with my creative process because now my content doesn't have to be just about poker. It can be more about the characters.
Very cool. That's very, how did, we know that you are creating this poker content on YouTube, but how did you get involved in poker to start with? How did poker find you, or how did you find poker?
I still to this day don't really know what the seed of interest was. I think maybe it was because my cousins had like a poker set when I was a kid. But the incident that I think sparked it all was I went to a casino once with this cursory interest in poker. So I went to a casino back in Niagara Falls back in beginning of 2020. And tried to play poker. So I sat down at a poker table and started playing. And immediately I was incredibly confused. I knew the rules somewhat, and that therefore I was even more confused when all of the players at the table were talking about their hands out loud, like openly showing me, openly showing each other. It wasn't until later on that I learned that I was playing a table game called Ultimate Texas Hold'em. And a mortifying 20 minutes later and being down like $200, I was so embarrassed, so humiliated that I vowed that this will never happen again. I'm gonna learn about poker. Um, and so that's kind of when it started. My interest in poker started happening, and that's when I started getting recommended videos from Brad Owen, the biggest YouTube vlogger, poker vlogger out there, and then Rampage as well. Yeah, and then that's how my interest in poker started.
So, so you went into an ultimate Texas Hold'em game, a table game, and thought you were playing real poker.
The sign says the Texas Hold'em. I wanted to play Texas Hold'em. I was so
That's
confused.
great. That's
The dealer literally said to me, like, "Do you know what you're doing?" And I go, "I thought so." He says, "You don't know what you're doing. You should stop playing." I'm like, "Okay." So I left.
okay. So then that was your beginning into poker, but then how did you decide to begin creating poker content? What spurred on that interest to start actually YouTubing it?
Yeah, so that happened during the pandemic. So I was at home a lot. I had a lot of free time. Actually, at the time, I was working as a kids TV show host. My background is in acting, and I was a recent theater graduate, and I was working as a kids TV show host. But we were working from home. But I really don't need 40 hours a week to work as a kids TV show host, so I just had a lot of spare time at home. So during that spare time, I was watching a lot of poker vlogs, and I got really inspired by Rampage, and I was thinking, oh, that'd be cool. Like, I can do that. Like, it was lovely seeing this like young Asian male representation of a not very good player at the time, putting content out there, documenting his own poker story. And I thought, hey, like I can do that. So I started the YouTube channel, to which I realized was a very bad idea very quickly because one, I had no money to play with. Two, I was very bad at poker. Three, I couldn't even play poker because we were locked down in Ontario at the time. And I couldn't, therefore I couldn't make any poker vlogging content. So then I was thinking, what do I do in the meantime, just as a placeholder before I can start poker vlogging? And I was like, oh, this game's kind of funny. Let's make some comedic sketches about it. So after like a few videos of just vlogging myself playing like 5NL online, I started creating these sketches, and then that's when the channel really took off.
That's like I say, I watch your channel all the time. Whenever something new comes out, I check it out, and I love the characters that you do on there. Which reminds me, what do you create these videos yourself? Now, I'm sure the first couple you created probably all on your own in your house. Do you currently have more than yourself help producing these things? Do you have a crew of people that help you? Do you have camera people? That type of thing, or do you put this all together yourself?
Sure. I think No Man is an island. So while primarily a lot of work is by myself, like there's a lot of people I work with. In terms of like just shooting the content, I do that all by myself. So I'll script, and then the next day I'll set up the shots. So I'll figure out what my shots are. I'll set up the lighting, and then I'll set up the camera, the shot I want to be at, and then I'll put on my audio, my lav mic, and then I'll put on then I'll like get into costume and then I'll go shoot in one spot, start recording, just go in front, shoot and go back, review the footage. Okay, it's out of focus, do it again, and then rinse and repeat for the 5 other characters I have to shoot for that week. So yeah, the shooting actual like production side of it is primarily by myself. Occasionally, I'll invite a guest appearance. One of my favorite one of the crowd favorite formats of one of my sketches is like me getting beat up at the end. So I just need to get someone else to do that. So if you ever see anyone else that's not me in my video, you can expect me to get beat up at the end. But then after that, like I'll send it off to my editor. I can edit myself, but just quite time consuming. So I send it off to him. And then when I get it back, I polish it up after he's met his deliverables. But that's kind of the extent of all the people that work in creating the content itself.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. That's very impressive that you're doing it all on your own and actually, filming it all yourself. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And you're doing such a great job at this that you've actually won some global poker awards for your YouTube content. How was that experience? What was that like? I mean, that must have been pretty cool.
It's been cool. I started the channel like late December 2020. And so my first year active was 2021. And since then, every year I've been nominated for a GPI award at least once. So in 2021, I was nominated Poker Personality and then lost. And then 2022 was nominated and then won Best Media Content. It was the one poker vlogger that doesn't know that the voiceover is done in post is the name of the video. And then 2023 was short form and poker personality, and I won poker personality this past year. It's been cool. It's been surreal. It's like this whole, the first year I just really couldn't believe any of this is happening. Even now, it's like, this is a weird job. When I go on dates and I tell dates what I do, they also go, that's a weird job. But yeah, it's surreal that I can make poker memes for a living and let alone win awards for them. And it's so weird when I'm in like the Poker Go studios at the Aria because it's like I'm surrounded by all of these incredibly prestigious poker players that are actually really, really, really good at poker. And then there's me that just makes yucks for degenerates, and I'm in the same room with them.
That's very cool. Did you have something, Chris?
Well, actually, I wanted to follow up a little on some. You mentioned having formal training as an actor,
yeah,
and you mentioned a kids show that you were hosting. I'm wondering if so. First of all, are you doing any other kind of creative work, acting work outside of Greg Goes All In, the kind of the poker personality that we all know, or is that kind of become your exclusive focus? And then I have a follow up to that.
Sure. To answer the first question, am I still actively an actor? No, I'm not. I decided in this past November 2023 to retire. So up to that point, I was kind of juggling both. I still had an acting agent. I was still getting sent out to shoot self-tapes. And then I had an opportunity last winter here in Vancouver to be an Elf the Musical at the Arts Club, which is the only professional theater company in Vancouver. And I thought, why not? And so I did it. And before we even opened, I kind of realized I think I'm going to retire from acting. Like, it was still really meaningful. I really enjoyed the work that we did, and it was nice getting back in touch with the craft I spent a decade working on. But one, it didn't feel as meaningful anymore doing other people's work, saying other people's words, dancing other people's choreo after having created my own work for the last 3 years. And also, financially, it made no sense. It made zero sense. I was like, it's like I was working 6 days a week, putting in like 70-hour weeks at the theater. which again, felt very fortunate to do. It was a really rare opportunity for a lot of performers to do in Vancouver. But it was taking away so much capacity and time away from the thing that actually makes me money. And so before we even opened, I realized, yeah, no, I think I'm going to retire and just fully focus on the channel. I do see myself returning to it one day, maybe once I build up a nice enough nest egg, and then I can go back to the theater or film and TV and work and pursue that without feeling like I desperately need to succeed for my survival.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and I mean, that sounds, I mean, it sounds like a perfect plan, really, because like if you kind of do the theater for the love of it, not the, I mean, that's kind of the dream in poker too, right? To be able to play poker not for the like desperate, I need to win. It's more like I'm enjoying playing this and I'm enjoying doing it.
Mhm.
But so just to kind of follow, I mean, you kind of then the pandemic hit, you're trapped at home, you're thinking about how to sort of approach this. Did you have, based on some of your television experience, your acting experience, did you have the know-how on how to set up a shot, how to, pull together these characters together and write a script? Because like that's sort of part of like formal actor training, but some of that is not. Like some of that has like a lot of that. So how much of that did you have to learn, or how much of it were you just kind of ready to go in that
Sure,
moment?
you're asking like how much of my training
Yeah,
experience has
yeah,
contributed to the channel itself.
yeah.
Um, I think one of the biggest contributors was editing. So it's something I had to learn when I was a lot I attribute to working kids TV. So not only was I a host for this kids television show, this government sponsored television show in Ontario, I was also a producer for it. It was very loosely scripted. It was a 15-minute live show every weekday at 4:30. And I learned a lot of skills from kids TV, which then I used for my degenerate gambling content. So one most notably is I learned how to use Premiere Pro. Prior to that point, and which is an editing software. Prior to that, I was using iMovie, which is just very easily accessible, but it's quite limited. So learning how to use Premiere Pro using an advanced editing software was really, really useful. Also, doing character work was something that was developed more for me while I was doing kids TV. Character work was never really my strong suit. I always felt really, I don't know, I never felt like I did accents well or played personified physical characters very well. And so that was something that was outside my comfort zone that I had to hone while I was doing kids TV and has continued to be honed while doing Greg Goes All In. Um, and then, yeah, for sure, like my theater training really helped with has helped with the performance side of things. So I think what I contribute to my theater training is learning this sense of play. So it's like what we focus on a lot in theater school is to not focus on the finished product and trying to be perfect. It's just go ahead and just play, be playful, have fun, and see what you discover and what you find. And so that's been really helpful in just helping me loosen up and play around with different things to discover new characters and nuances or accents or physicalities. Writing itself, yeah, it was something we also learned in school, but it was something I always I had an interest in back in high school, so learning about story structure. So yeah, everything led up to this moment.
Yeah, right. And then, so last question, I'll turn it back to Rob. Just as you've thought about like one of the, I mean, you often joke about yourself being a terrible poker player, but one of the things I kind of learned through watching some of your videos is that I think, as much as we like to joke about this game, it's a more fun game when you know what you're doing. And I know that you've put some work in sort of improving as a player as well. So I'm wondering about how has that journey been for you? Like in terms of like what have you done to sort of try to improve yourself on a more serious level as a poker player? But then secondly, I think the more interesting question for me is like when you sit down at a table, are you focused on playing your best poker, or are you focused on more looking for like the story, or like what's the story that I could tell for the next Greg Goes All In sort of masterpiece? How do you balance those two things?
Sure. So like you have two questions. Your first question is like, what's my journey been just purely as a poker player?
Yeah.
And then the other one is like, what am I thinking about when I'm playing?
Yeah.
Journey as a poker player, I think pretty typical. You start out, you lose, you pay to learn, you know? So my first year, but I think what was um special about my journey was my learning curve could not keep up with my obligations to play. So I was starting poker at the same time as I was getting thrown into the poker industry. And as a result, uh, I was losing money, just playing stakes that, that was because I felt this still at the time felt this, I needed to vlog 1-3, even though I wasn't rolled for it at that point, and so by the end of the year of 2021, I was down like 14K playing 1-3. Fortunate enough, it was a business expense, everything else heavily offset that. But as a shrewd businessman, I thought it's probably in my best interest to mitigate my business expenses. And so I started getting coaching, and I found that what worked best for me. I got one-on-one coaching with a fan of mine who crushes like 100 NL online. So we did coaching for like a year, purely for cash games. I got better, and then in 2022, I won 4K playing 1-3, averaging like $4 an hour, and I was very happy about that. And then probably kept focusing on cash games. And then last year, 2023, I won like 16K, averaging like $40 an hour. So I was like, oh, sick, this is great. And then at the beginning of 2024, I got into poker tournaments, and I lost a lot of money. Like it baited me. Like in my first by February 2024, I was up 27K. Like I binked a 1K tournament in Calgary. I hit a couple like bad beats and a high hand, and I was up 27K. And I placed fourth in this 1K tournament for like my first 5-figure win. And I was like, tournaments are amazing. Over the course of the last 5 months, I grinded it down to minus 7K. So that was like a negative minus 30K downswing. And that's when I realized the importance of bankroll management with tournaments. And just like it was really humbling, and knowing that I couldn't just use my low stakes 1-3 strategies for tournaments. So I've just recently started coaching again. And it's been going well. The graph is going upwards. Again, I'm now down 5K on the year. I still got 4 more months left. But that has been my journey as a poker player. As for your second question, what am I thinking when I'm playing? I think contrary to the persona I give on my channel, I've accepted I'm really quite boring when I play live. Like there are some influences out there that are really like very animated, or poker players are very animated. I just realized like I think Greg and Greg Goes All In are very different people. I think when I'm there, I'm focusing a lot on the game. I think I'm the kind of person who really values structure and form, and so I'm really trying to apply the things I learn. Where my deficiencies is in metagaming and like social dynamics. So, for example, I play a lot with my trading card game friends, like Magic the Gathering. And though I'm more studied in poker than them, they have more. Yeah, Joseph. They're much more. They've had a decade's worth of experience in like metagaming. And so that's where I'm learning. I'm still deficient in, as I'm still learning the game. But yeah, so when I'm playing, I'm just kind of focusing on the game. And then if inspiration comes, that's when I take out my ideas pad and I just jot it down and put it into my pocket.
You have something, Joe?
Oh, I got lots.
I'm sure you do.
First and foremost, you have, I got to give a shout out to my son, because he actually introduced me to your videos. I'm always behind the 8 ball when it comes with regards to it. He walks up and says, "Look at this guy," and I'm like, "Who's he going to show me?" And I'm like, "Oh, I like him."
How old is your son, though?
He's 15.
I apologize for exposing your children to gambling.
No, trust me, I exposed my son to gambling, so it's
then I regret nothing.
Yeah.
Start him young.
I did. He plays in the home game, but anyway. So I guess my question is so, we saw your dad last week in terms of one of our podcasts, Slow Poker. So
I was like, you've seen my dad?
Well,
where is he?
I don't know.
Does he miss me?
Yes, and he's coming home soon. The thing that I was interested in talking with John was, does he consider himself a poker player first or a content producer? And I think that given your answer, I would think that you're a content producer who uses poker as a vehicle to essentially do things. And that's interesting to me because those are the content producers I'm actually most interested in. I don't need the reality show. I'm terrible at poker. I'm not going to learn enough by watching other people. But the people that actually are interested in the stories that come back or come around are what interest me. And that leads me to my question, because all that was just compliments in terms of a very good product that you put out. But Thanks. How do you manage writing? If you're on like the Tonight Show, you've got like 15 writers who are all writing different things and churning through things and testing it. But you're doing this all on your own. And how do you find the way to come up with the idea that what's funny and what's not in terms of presenting it to an audience that you really don't see except for in the comments at a later point?
Yeah, that's great. That's a really interesting question. You're wondering how can I create content stories as a single person who doesn't get feedback from other people?
Exactly.
I just do it, and I accept that sometimes I put out shit. Okay. So like that's something I learned in doing Kids TV. We had to put out like 5 shows a week. Some shows were better than others, right? And some are great and some are just awful and terrible. But you have a schedule, you have to put out stuff out anyway. So I think that's really primarily what I did the first 3 years of doing this. I was still in the experimental phase. I was putting out just whatever I wanted. And I think I was really fortunate to still develop a following from that. I think what's helpful is like there's a bit of an availability bias. Like you don't see the garbage shorts or the garbage sketches because if they're garbage, then engagement probably wasn't good. So these social platforms that are trying to suck your attention and energy probably aren't going to recommend you these shorts. So you just don't see the bad ones. And then you just see the really good ones, and I was still able to just experiment. And so it wasn't until like maybe 6 months ago that I kind of realized like, if I want to keep growing, I need to start focusing and optimizing on what works best. Because I feel like a lot of poker content creators, they they cap it around like 50K and then don't really grow. And I felt like if I wanted to break through that, I really needed to focus on what worked well. And so I just had all of this content from the last 3 years, and I could just click the most popular tab, look at the things that work the best, and then just figure out what about it made it do well, and then just started focusing on doing that. And so recently, the past 6-8 months, I've just kind of been putting out content that I know now, after 3 years of fucking around, will perform well. And so the feedback I've gotten, though I write by myself, is just the natural selection of what videos did well in the past.
So how do you stop being stale then? Because if you're only using the algorithm to help you determine what gets the most clicks, then I anticipate at some point you will be, this is an enormous pot of, $60 million that I was involved in, because that seems to be where they kind of move towards based on some of the algorithmic descriptions I've seen. But that's not what you write, right? That's not how you're drawing people in. How do you keep that spark of creativity going, despite the fact that you're trying to shape it based on an algorithm?
Because I don't think it's a sandbox to play in, but it's not that constrictive. It's not like, oh, you have to use the exact same dialogue over and over again, and you have to make it exactly 33 seconds, and it has to be exact same scenario over and over. So I'll give an example. It's like, I want one of my most viewed videos, 15 million views right now on YouTube. I get beaten up. And so I was like, fantastic. The audience likes it when I get beat up. I can name 24 different scenarios in which someone could get beat up in a poker room. You know, if we all put our heads
Yeah.
together, we probably come up with more than that. So it's like, so that's the playground. It's like, oh, I get beat up at the end. How do I get there? You know? Another fun thing I discovered with my algorithm is that that's this one's quite specific, is that my videos that start with a character saying all in does very well. And I thought about this for a while, and I realized it's because it's actually, like, it's not any brilliance of my own. It's just I discovered it, but it's quite brilliant because those two simple words accomplishes so many things. It starts the short in conflict. So like that's one element of virality for shorts, is like if you scroll into something and immediately there's conflict, we're sucked in and engaged. And secondly, it tells the audience what it's about. So it's like, okay, this is about poker. And thirdly, you know there's going to be a payoff, because once someone goes all in, someone else needs to react to it. So then when I discovered that, I created a short where I had 5 consecutive characters say all in one after another. And that one's like my 3rd most viewed video. So like the algorithm, like it provides guidelines and it provides toolbox. Like it gives you a sandbox to play within. And that's something that I also learned in theater school, going back to the former question, in which, like, I think a lot of my peers struggled when they were given a box. But when I was given a box, I was like, oh, this is a fun little playground that I get to play in and discover an immense amount of things. And that also, I guess another answer to that is also just this idea of play. What else? What can I find? Because when you play, you can just discover an infinite amount of things.
So the final question I have, it relates to, so you do a lot of character acting, or at least that's kind of what you said you moved into. And you know, one of the first videos my son showed me was going around to different characters in terms of all in or something like that. And as somebody who periodically will try to put out comedic content for some things that I do, there's always a danger of doing that, right? Because particularly in a realm where everybody can see, people don't always interpret things the way that you intended them. There's certain sensitivities in terms of doing comedy when things aren't funny that certainly YouTube and all of the different social media platforms open you up to. Have you experienced a lot of pushback in terms of even, say, getting the crap kicked out of you if you try to steal stuff videos or some of the characters that you've presented?
Are you asking if I've gotten canceled before? Is that what your question is?
Well, not canceled, but I mean it's like, so some of the times that I've done some work, you know, I talk about it in terms of the apology, right? It's like you're doing this, you put it out, and then all of a sudden you have an apology because there's this large group of people who have decided to discuss with you the difficulties that you presented. And you're clearly not canceled, but I mean, have you experienced?
Sure, just being held. Like I when I say the word cancel, I mean it quite satorically, knowing that,
okay.
You know, like that. You know, I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
So like, have I faced backlash before? And after putting out 600 plus shorts, I must have at some point. Oh yeah, like for sure. I don't think anything like Twitter like worthy. But I think I mean I think when we're talking in terms of like inclusivity and things like that, I feel, coming from a theater background, just my own background, I'm pretty well versed in trying to be sensitive to as many people as I can in the work I create, and that's just my artistry. So whenever I create work, I try to be, when I make a choice, I always try to make sure I'm able to artistically back it up. And like, yeah, I just find them that sometimes it's really the most it's manifested as maybe like a comment saying like, hey, I didn't think that was cool. And I was like, great, thank you for that feedback. I'll sincerely give this some thought and think about it. But yeah, mostly like the backlash, I guess, just hate comments, just like, oh, that was weird, or my least favorite one is cringe because it's so unimaginative and so unoriginal. And I think that's just part of the job, you know, like it doesn't really faze me. I really don't mind when people comment negatively about me. Like I kind of just leave it on. People like comment stuff that is quite, like, I don't know, just rude, uninclusive, or I take those down because I try to keep my community safe, or if I don't have the energy to read those things. Yeah, I don't know. Did I answer? Am I answering your question?
No, you did. Look, just comedy's tough, right? I mean, I think in a lot of respects, it's harder to do the work that you're doing, to write it consistently, to make people think it's funny, right? All of those things are much harder than other forms of, I would say, expression, types of work. So I'm just giving you props for being able to kind of wander that line, because it doesn't
Oh,
seem
thank
like
you.
you're hitting anything. And my own experiences suggest it's just really difficult. So that's all.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm just
I think
interested.
it's more so applicable. I think when we think like comedy and like in terms of like then those discussions happening, it's a lot of like stand-up comedians who are, like who or like that who kind of whose branding is kind of more like edgy comedy or really talking about like topical political issues, which definitely had its space. Mine's about a card game, so it's like I don't really it's not as fine of a line I think that I have to tread. I think I do actively use my comedy sometimes as social commentary, um, but for the majority of the time, it's just about the card game. And in the times that I am making social commentary, I am able to artistically justify and more morally justify what I'm doing. So I generally feel pretty okay with it.
Well, thanks for being honest. I appreciate it. Yeah.
And I think the characters that you put on your videos are so stereotypical that they are blown up as far as, really being almost too stereotypical. So they make them kind of unreal. Although you can see the types of people that they are, because you see them at the poker table. You see the old man coffee. You see, you see these characters that you're portraying, and they're very, very stereotypical. So I can't imagine that anybody can be offended by them. You know what I mean? They're just like, how could you be offended by that?
That's a dangerous statement. Anybody can be offended.
Well, that's true. That's true. But when you're doing it so out there, it's not like you're making fun of that particular person. It's more like that idea of what that person is, and it's so out there and so, it just I couldn't imagine how anybody could be offended by it.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been told
there's a lot of people.
I've been told that I look like an old man coffee, and I like that because because then they don't expect me to do some of the things that I might do at the poker table. So another question I had for you. By the way, anybody watching live on YouTube, if you have any questions for Greg, put them in the chat and we'll ask them. Have you considered going beyond the poker content with your YouTube channel and do other types of content? Or are you pretty much focused that you're in this box that you call it the sandbox of poker? Or do you have, maybe some thoughts of doing other types of content in the future?
I always joke when, like, if the YouTube channel fails, I can still use the same branding of Greg Goes All In for my OnlyFans. But to answer your question, have I thought about using this specific channel to create non-poker content? No. Like, I think that it just wouldn't be a service to anybody. I've spent this 3 years building an audience that expects poker and content about poker. And to change it now would be a disservice to the fans that have invested and watched my content, and it would be a disservice to myself because the videos wouldn't perform well. It would be a disservice to YouTube because the videos wouldn't perform well and they can't make money off my ads. But I have considered creating other content, just starting a new channel, creating other content. I've always been interested in content creation. So, for example, before Kids TV and before Greg Goes All In, I had an Instagram account called Greg Lives in a Van. and during which I right after theater school, I thought to myself, hey, this is one of the lowest paying industries that requires me to live in the most expensive cities. How do I do this? I'll live in a van. So my first vehicle ever was a 1984 camper van. And I lived in that for like half a year while doing regional theater and then ultimately booking kids TV. So I had money, then I could move into an apartment. But that was my stint with content creation. And then as in elementary school, I was making dumb sketches with my friends on YouTube as well. So I've always had an interest in content creation and performing. I think right now I don't really have capacity to do other things. Um, Again, it's one of those things where it's like it just financially wouldn't make sense to take away so much capacity away from the thing that I am enjoying, but it also makes me money. Um, and also it's like I have this bad habit of turning my hobbies into my job. So theater, acting, dancing, singing, and then content creation, and then poker. So if I wanted to make other content, initially it would have been just out of my own pure joy, but I think I would still feel like I'm working at that point. So now I just go to karaoke on Tuesdays at pub night, and so that's been fun.
I'd like to see videos of you doing karaoke on weekends.
Greg goes karaoke. Yeah,
There you go. There you go. I
there we
love
go.
it. Great idea. I think you
Sure.
might have something there. All right, let's talk about poker a little bit.
Okay.
Do you enjoy playing live poker or do you enjoy playing online poker better?
Live poker. I think yeah, it's just more fun. I think you just can't remove there's nothing beats the social aspect, and especially when my lifestyle currently is like I live alone and I work alone. I value social interactions a lot more these days. So I have an option to play poker with people. That's always nice. Um the human aspect's always entertaining as well. In terms of like tournaments though, in Vancouver and Canada in general, the tournament scene isn't really great. So most of my tournament play is online.
I suppose there's not as much content that you can get out of an online poker game as you can from a live poker game because you have all those characters. And on online, you can't see those characters. You don't know if
Oh,
it's
in terms of like ideas. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like humans will always be much like people and will always be much more entertaining. That's the best the fun part of the game. It's like, there's a game about cards, but the fun comes from playing against people.
Yeah, I agree 100%. All right. Do you get recognized a lot when you're playing live?
I do. So anytime I'm in a poker space, I will get recognized quite often. It's at this point almost like a given. Um, the WSOP was really quite overwhelming this year, I think, for the first time. And so it's a really weird and interesting experience having niche fame. Like it's nice because like outside of a poker space, no one knows who I am and I can just be a human. And then in poker spaces, a lot of times it's very flattering. But this past series, quite candidly, was a little overwhelming. So 21, 22, 23 was okay. Like it's like when I got recognized, it was still very like novel and it happened quite intermittently. 2023 was when I noticed problems coming up. So the one I go to is I'm in line waiting for the Colossus and someone just punches me in the spine. Punches me in the spine. I turn around and I just see this guy and he just takes up his phone, takes a photo, looks at me, and walks away. And I go, what the fuck was that? you know? And then 2024, all the interactions I had were really positive. But it was kind of incessant. Like I couldn't walk anywhere like without getting recognized or feeling like someone had their eyes on me. To the point where I was messaging Rampage, Ethan. I was like, how do you handle this, dude? And he goes, oh, I hide a lot. I'm like, where? He goes, I just like in breaks, I hide it in corners at tables. I'm like, thank you. But I'm also really empathetic. I always try to give the most energy I can to people who approach me because I'm quite anxious when I approach like people in general. And and so like I never want to make someone feel like I didn't have time for them, or I wouldn't want them walking away feeling like they had a bad interaction with me. Unless they punched me in the spine, then fuck you.
It's an interesting concept though, because I was at the WSOP for the first time this year in July, and saw Maria Ho walk by, and it was just a very quick interaction, and I realized that before I could even stop myself, I'm like, "Hey, Maria," and then she walks by and she has this surprised look on her face, and I'm just sitting in my head going, "She doesn't know how the hell you are." I mean, you have this kind of connection with people that you see over and over and over again as a fan or somebody, even if you're just seeing it regularly. Like I know a crap ton more about you than you do about me, and that leads to familiarity that makes people think they can do stupid stuff like punch you in the back and in the spine. And
not just the back, the spine.
Yeah.
Like she could have gone for like my scapula, classic kidney punch. No, like man goes for my central nervous system.
Spazzing, like having a muscle spasm, asymmetric familiarity. Exactly, John. It's weird. It's weird on the fan side as well, because you feel like you have this connection to the person, but when you really take that one step back, you don't. Right? I have no business saying hi to Maria Ho, and I hope she wasn't frightened. I just said hi. It's just a small thing, but you do get it on both sides. Kind of a weirdness in terms of the interaction.
Yeah, no, for sure. I can definitely attest to that. It's the people, I feel like they kind of, they know you, and so, and like that's not most people, but like just some people kind of feel like they have this entitlement to you just because they're like, oh, I know you and I see your content. So it's like that manifests as like guys DMing me being like, hey, can I get an invite to your home game? And I'm like, fuck no, stranger off the internet. I'm not gonna tell you where I fucking live. What do you mean? And then I meet them in person, like they'll approach me like, hey man, like I DM'd you, ask if you can invite me to your home game. And I'm like, no, dude, like what are you talking about?
You didn't have to talk about the fact that I DM'd you to be in your home game, man. That's kind of rude.
Sorry to expose you like that, Joseph. What is fun is getting it, that it's still novel and very flattering, is getting recognized outside of poker. So that's probably been like less than 20 times, and like every time it happens, I take note of it because it's always fun. So one time I got recognized in Tim Hortons, so that was cool. I got recognized in my own lobby of my apartment once, which is kind of annoying. But then he was like, hey, do you live here? And I was like, yep, but I know where you live too. So it was okay. One of my friends, she works at a strip club. She invited me to go to the strip club the other night. This is literally Tuesday. While I'm there having a drink, some guy comes up to me. He's like, hey, are you Greg Liow? And I go, no, I am not. You never saw me here. So that was a really fun one. That was one of the more memorable ones. Yeah. But overall, I love my fans. Just don't punch me in the back, and we're okay.
Noted.
I'll make a note of that myself. If I ever see you, I won't punch you in the back. One of the things I've noticed, though, being on this podcast is that we have gotten to meet a lot of people and actually talk to them one-on-one, like a Maria Ho or like Lexi Gavin Mather was on. We've had Daniel Negreanu on. We've had all these people on, so that if you do see them, at least we have had some interaction in the past. So it's not like we are coming up as a total, no, they've never seen us before or heard of us before. So that gives us a little bit of an edge. Joe, just wear your RecPoker patch and let them know that. Huh?
Lorianne Pessinger did not remember that we had a long conversation in one of these chats, and I reintroduced myself when I was in Las Vegas, and she's looking at me like, why are you still talking to me? So she's very nice, but I don't think it grants you as much as you guys meet a lot of people, and so it's really
that's true. That's true. All right, is there anything else that you want to let our viewers know or let our listeners know, Greg?
Not much. Just thanks so much for watching. If you've watched my videos in the past, thanks for supporting. And thanks to the RecPoker podcast for having me on today.
Oh, yeah. It was our honor, really.
I just want to say that, I mean, this is something I said to John last week, but I think that the stuff that you guys do is really hard. And, I hope that when people, I said last week as well, I'm just going to repeat it again. It's an ethical reason when you're consuming somebody's content like this, understand how much work it takes. Understand that these are people that need support from the community in order to be able to survive and have more than a basic income. And I don't know what YouTube is paying you, but my understanding is that really the only top performers really get the big bucks that everybody talks about. So if you have an opportunity to throw some money his way, subscribe, like whatever it is that is going to put money in his pocket, please do it, because the kind of stuff will go away if we don't support it as a community.
Oh, thanks, Joseph. Very kind. Yeah,
I
watched that part with Slow Poker. Yeah, supporting artists, and that's where John and I really connect. It's we're both thespians at heart, underneath the degeneracy.
Oh, wait a minute. We have a couple other things here we want to do. We want to do stake, study, and stack. And I think Chris has a group of.
Yeah.
Ahead,
So speaking of last week, so this is our segment we call Stake, Study, Stack. We always like to sort of wrap up the show with this. So basically, I'm going to give you 3 names. You're going to pick one that you want to stake in a poker game or tournament, cash game or tournament. One that you'd like to study with. Could be about poker, could be about something else. And then one that you would find no greater pleasure than just stacking them at the table, taking all their chips.
Let's do it.
And I'm going to pick 3 names that we've mentioned in the show tonight.
Oh.
So I have Brad Owen, Rampage, and Slow Poker.
Oh, this is so hard. Stake, study, stack. I'm going to stake Brad Owen because I think he's the most consistent winner of the 3. I don't think he's playing as high of stakes as Rampage does these days. Actually, no, Brad still is most consistent because he plays cash. So yeah, we're staking Brad, which means I'm either stacking or studying with Rampage. I'm going to if I stack Rampage, then I have to study with Slow. I won't get greedy. I'll stack Slow and I'll study with Rampage.
Love it.
That's
well, you
great.
two, you'll be happy to know that you two stacked each other. So it's
Zero
a reciprocal
EV.
relationship. Yeah.
There you go.
All right. We also have a segment we call, what do we call this? Closing the action. We're going to close the action. And what this is, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions. We want quick, snappy answers.
Oh, no.
And if you don't like the question and don't want to answer it, just say pass.
This is live. This is dangerous.
This is live. And these questions, I'm telling you, some of them are pretty controversial. First of all, what's your favorite poker hand?
Ace 5 of hearts.
Nice. Okay. Is poker a gamble or skill game?
Why not both?
All right. What's your biggest poker pet peeve?
When people fold out of turn.
Okay. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Sure, why not?
Is Ace King a drawing hand?
No, it's not. It's a premium. It's not.
Okay. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No, it's a hot dog. It's in the question.
I like that. What's one thing you're afraid of?
Torture.
Should be.
Sorry, was that not supposed to be serious? Was that too dark?
That was a great answer.
Go something psychological. It's not actual.
Yeah, like psychological.
It's not just a physical. It's also a very psychological thing you have to go through.
Well, but
for years.
Are you close to being tortured? Do we need to send some help?
No, I'm good. I'm just like that. Like that's literally like my go-to answer for like biggest fears.
Okay. Should vacations be lazy or busy?
Lazy.
Okay, is a royal flush a straight flush?
A royal flush is a straight flush.
All right. What's your favorite poker venue?
Favorite poker venue? I really like Resorts World Poker Room that comes to mind. I like the black and gold aesthetic, and also have a bit of sentimental value. Because it's a Malaysia Resorts World's a Malaysian company, which is next to Singapore, which is where I was born, and so the food court has a lot of food I find nostalgic to me.
All right. All right. Who's one player you respect and why?
Um, I really respect David Coe. So he's a 23-year-old player from Canada, and he's a friend of mine. He just recently won like $400,000 from and a belt from WPT Montreal, and is his just his trajectory. Not only I think what I respect about it is not only is he a very accomplished player who obviously studies very hard. He seems to have this real appreciation for life, and he never loses sight of having fun. And so he's despite being this huge crusher, he always celebrates when he wins anything. You know, like he wins a $50 flip and he's the most ecstatic you've ever seen him. And so I think he does a better job at what my brand touts, which is keeping poker fun, and he actively actually practices it in his daily play.
Cool. All right. Yellow light, slow down or speed up?
It depends where you are. If I'm in Vancouver, like it's slow down. If I'm in Richmond, just south of Vancouver, it's speed up.
Okay. Are you pro chop or no chop?
Like the blinds?
Yeah. No. I'm talking in a tournament.
Like karate? Like
Well,
pork?
End of a tournament, you're down to final table. Somebody wants to chop. Are
No,
you
no
pro
chop, no
chop or
chop,
no?
no chop, no chop.
Good for you. Good for you. Who's your poker nemesis?
There's this fan that sends me death threats once in a while.
Okay.
Probably that guy.
All right. And then last question. What's one thing you can't live without?
Air, water.
Okay.
Oh, we're not supposed to be literal. Hold on. What can I figuratively not live without?
Not
My
it's not
cat.
torture, is it?
My cat.
Your cat?
My cat.
All right.
I love
All right.
Falcon.
I like that. All right. You did very well. I think you got,
Thank you.
totaling it up here, it looks like you got 751 points.
Oh wow.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you so
Very
much.
good.
Thank you. What is
Now,
slogan?
is there? I can't remember, dude. I'd have to go back and listen to the episode because I wasn't the host of that episode, so I don't
I'm
have
sure
the
he got
notes in front.
750. You just beat him by a
750?
point there. Yeah, I'm sure.
Suck it, slow.
All right. Is there a way folks can reach you if they want to reach out to you? Other than obviously YouTube comments in your Greg Goes All In YouTube channel, but is there any other way you would like folks to be able to get a hold of you?
Sure. Best way to reach me is on Instagram. You can DM me. It'll likely go into my request folder, but I do still read a lot of those. Note, I don't respond to a lot of them. But if you want to send me something, yeah, I'll probably read it. Just Instagram DM me. Just
All
don't
right.
punch me in the fucking spine. Okay. Still salty about that.
All right. Thanks a lot for being here, Greg. This was a great. I'm really glad I was able to meet you. Glad I was able to talk to you. I've been watching your videos since I first discovered them, probably about 2021.
Oh wow.
So at least 3 years ago, I discovered them and I've been watching them ever since. So you've brought a lot of laughter into poker players' lives, and you are definitely making poker fun. So
Aw.
thanks again for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thank you folks for having me. Bye. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Now we're going to jump over to John Somsky, and he's going to talk to us about home game results. In the meantime, if you're on the YouTube, type food bank into the comments. As we know, there's a lot of food insecurity in the world, and we want to do our part to support the food banks in our area. So you can always find where the food bank in your area is by Googling food bank, and do your best to support them, and type in food bank, and you will be eligible you'll be in the drawing for the prize at the end. So go ahead, John. What do we got?
Well, we have 2 weeks of results this time because last week we did not have a podcast because here in the United States it was Labor Day weekend. And I also want to warn people I am having a lot of troubles with PokerStars right now getting tournament results. I think I figured out a workaround. I had to hand build some of the results. A bunch of stuff that no one needs to worry about. But anyway, some of the results have been a little bit more delayed than normal because of that. And that may continue to happen. I unfortunately do not work for PokerStars and cannot fix their bugs. Anyway, we'll start off on August 26th. One Jack Black, Brett, got his first nightly victory of the year. A big deal, 1992, Brian DeHaven got his third nightly victory for the year. Carl0621, Carl Anderson, got his second nightly victory for the year. Elvita 11, Joe Koulis, got his first nightly victory for the year. Bruce K54, Bruce Kiefer, got his third nightly victory for the year. Max Chaos 2112, Greg Clem, I'm assuming a Rush fan, got his third international victory for the year. B-Chip, Charles Allen, got his third international victory for the year. Keck Geek, and that's Keck Geek Senior for those keeping track, got his fifth nightly victory for the year. Matty Bumpo won the daily mixed event for the first time this year, and Squidge 2022 got her, Kate Ibbenson, got her first LPP event, so she can contact info@rec.poker for her free month at Learn Pro Poker. Normally, this is where I would end, but we'll go on to week number 2. And Michael Babker, won the No Limit Hold'em Series event. So that's we keep Player of the Year points, and you earn Player of the Year points for how well you do. And Kelly S. 19-6-22-20, Kelly Stork, maintains the lead in that Player of the Year points race. Jay Sedum, Jeff S., got his 7th nightly victory of the year. Fancy Nancy 1130, Nancy Pestel, got her first nightly victory for the year. Don't Chase 666, Joseph Armstrong, got the second nightly victory for the year. Meadweaver got the second nightly victory. Freak Out Yonder got the second nightly victory for the year. Bone Crusher 14, Marcel Dusick, got his second international victory for the year. Aces 54320, Kathy Chang, got her second international victory for the year. And Walton JB, Joe Walton, won the daily LPP event, so he can contact info@rec.poker for his free month at Learn Pro Poker.
A lot of recognizable names there. They keep coming back and they keep winning. Now, Joe Walton's a newer player. And so is Meadweaver, I believe. So we've had some new players coming in, and they're kicking some butt here in our home games.
Yeah, I'm guessing that has a lot to do with the Team 100K influx here. Mm-hmm. So I think the toughest play money home game in the multiverse just got tougher.
I have to agree 100%. Have to agree. What's next there, Chris?
Oh, I was just going to say, and if you are joining and becoming a new member, the tougher you make your name to pronounce, the better it is for all of us.
Because then we can give John a really hard time when he tries to pronounce it.
Maybe what I should start doing is just reading these without my glasses on, and then we'd have a really hard time. Of course, it might take 3 hours to get through the list.
All right. Looks like we have three.
Three.
Joe
We
put
got a
food bank.
repeat.
Yeah, Joe put his in there twice. So
You don't get double the odds. So I'm rolling a 4-sider. I'm not
So-
doing the dice cam. You're just gonna have to trust me.
Chris,
Yeah. And if we roll a 4,
you can put me in for the 4.
all right. If we roll a 4, we're donating to a food bank. So let's do that. But hey, it's a 4. See, this
hey,
is
way to go, Joe.
I should have had the thing on. I know. I couldn't get to it. It's a 2. So that's going to be Joe. Joe Rafter.
Way to go, Joe. You can call. You can email info@rec.poker and let us know you won the food bank drawing. All right. Is anything else? Anybody have anything else? I just want to mention that Poker Coaching has a big sale on their lifetime membership. So you can go to our YouTube, or our Twitter channel or Instagram channel, and you probably see a post for that, and you can click on that link to get a really good deal on their lifetime membership.
I did have one thing. I just remembered I wanted to add to tonight's show. If you're a premium member at Rec Poker and you win any amount of money, go to the scoreboard on our Discord channel and enter your amount. It's really exciting to see this. We just started keeping track, not even at the full month of August. And Rec Poker Premium and Wrecking Crew members have won over $36,000 in tournaments since then. So it's just really cool to see what we're accomplishing as a community. And I think it speaks to, there wasn't somebody binking like $30,000 in that. That was just a bunch of people playing the game, kind of grinding itself out. And it's fun to see. And we want to see that number grow. So if you want to be a part of it, all you got to do is just jump on there and enter your anytime you kind of cash a tournament.
Yeah, and that's for live or online play. So, and any amount. I mean, I think I came in 4th in some tournament and got like $30 or something like that. And I put that in there in the scoreboard. So it all adds up. So just, put it in there.
They told me I can't put my chip win that I got in the free Rec Poker community game. That's not allowed.
No,
that doesn't count for anything.
It has to be real money.
All right.
Well, you could say you won $0. That's just not going to bump the total up much.
It doubles the amount I won last week. So,
all right. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Special thanks to Running Aces Hotel Racetrack Casino, our guest Greg Liow, and our Wrecking Crew members, Chris Jones, John Somsky, and Joe Koulis. And you, the audience. And we'll see you next time.